Howdy, howdy. Suitable here, and welcome to my video where we're going to cover the red-crested skink, the results of the testing we did. We will go over the spreadsheets, and we will slot them into the top units of the 401 to 600 gold range. Now, if you haven't seen that set of testing that I've done and the videos that are part of it, I did a complete test of infantry versus infantry, all the way from peasants up to chosen with great weapons, and evaluated them under several different metrics, and came up with a list of the rank order from 1 to 24 or 1 to 31, depending on how many were in each category. And we did 400 gold and under, 401 gold to 600 gold, 601 gold to 900 gold, and 901 gold up. So now that the red-crested skinks have gotten released, it's time to see where they fit into that slot. And we're going to go over the testing and how I set up the test and how I took the data and how I evaluated the data. There are two other units that did change, and that was the Nehekara Warriors from the Tomb Kings, and they were reduced by 50 gold from 575 to 525 gold, and the Bretonian Men-at-arms with Polearms that were reduced from 525 gold to 500 gold. So I did not need to retest them. I just reworked the numbers with their lower gold price and re-ranked ordered them to see where the Nehekara Warriors fit in, because they were actually right near the bottom last time. And how much of that difference is that 50 gold going to make? And the same with the Men-at-arms with Polearms, though they should be right at the bottom because they are an anti-large unit in an anti-infantry engagement. Anyways, I'll go through and do an example of the test. Now, I have Pick Any General as the mod that I use, and usually I have unit testing fields, UT fields mod, and they go together and they're by the same mod author. But for some reason, UT fields is only working if you only use that mod, and it's not working with other mods right now. So I had to test on Glacier Lake, which is not a big deal. I mean, it's just the testing takes a little bit longer to get the units actually to engage. And essentially, I leave the units in their formation. If you've never seen my testing before, I don't change their formation. I have done a whole set of videos on formation, and one major video on formation testing where we actually built a chart on what formations do. So the idea is just to keep this testing very simple. I put them on toggle guard mode off and just let them go after each other. And I make sure that we're the defender, so they will attack. And then as soon as they actually collide and start to do damage to each other, 59:35, I pause it, take down that time so that I can get their total time, and I let the fight go on. Now, I did a live cast where we were just looking at the dwarf lizard matchup, and sort of it feels like the lizards haven't changed that much in terms of how they're going to match up against the Dawi. There might be some things that we've missed, and I actually had a really interesting comment about the salamanders being very hard to hit and having very good range, so you might see them. But as you can see, the red-crested skinks, even though they are anti-infantry, or so they are armor-piercing, they should do good against longbeards, but the longbeards are doing just fine. So what I do is, when the battle's over, I pause it, I look at the time again, look at the health of each unit, and then I go over to the spreadsheet. So we're going to go over there now. And I look at the red-crested skink. The longbeards are 650 gold. The red-crested skink are 575. I look at the start time of the battle where they started hitting each other, and the finish time. That gives me a battle time, a total seconds. Then I look at their finishing hit points of each unit, and that allows me to get a DPS or damage per second for each of the two units. And then what I do is I take their finishing health divided by their starting health multiplied by their gold and subtract the difference, and that gets me this gold differential. This tells me that in this fight, the longbeards won the fight. They have a win, but they won it by 120 gold. I like to think of things in terms of gold, not just because I love the Dawi, but because you have a fixed amount of gold in this game when you're a multiplayer, 12,400. So that gold number is going to tell you a lot about how effective you can be in multiplayer if you just get the right units into the right matchups, and which are the best matchups and which are the worst, and how to mitigate them. So then I do 5 tests. In some tests I do 7, some I've done up to 20 because there's so many tests. Like there's just thousands. I think at this point thousands of tests I've done. To get through this whole set of testing, I've only done 5, but that gives me an average. I also look at the gold per minute because I think that's an important metric to consider. Is not only how much gold do you gain, but how fast do you gain it. Because even if you gain a lot of gold, but it takes you 6 minutes to extract that gold, it's not a very efficient use of your initial starting gold because that unit is tied up for that long. And then I look at the win-loss ratio. Now, all this leads to sort of a value differential between the two, in that the gold differential and the gold per minute. Now, in this testing, I actually also did testing against Longbeards to get one side where all the units in the 401 gold to 600 gold would lose against Longbeards, so that I could get a loss, and I had them all fight Clan Rats too, so we could see a win. So when the Red Crested Skinks fought Clan Rats, turns out Clan Rats are a very, very efficient unit. The Clan Rats actually pulled 85 gold off the Red Crested Skinks. And if we look at the other units that we have here, I will put them together. We're going to go over there very shortly. But the Nehekara Warriors, now that they're 525 gold, they're still losing 169 gold, but obviously that's 50 gold less, which is pretty darn significant. And the Men-at-arms with Polearms are losing 211 gold. Which is, you would expect that. They're an anti-large unit. Against the Clan Rats, the Red Crested Skinks lost 85 gold. The Nehekara Warriors now only lose 62 gold. So that's actually really positive, in that the Nehekara Warriors have definitely shown an improvement on there, and they are better than the Red Crested Skinks against Clan Rats specifically. And Men-at-arms with Polearms are 117 gold. So that's the testing and the updated testing that I put into the system to redo my list. So I get over to the list. The old list was like this. We had 24 units with the Flagellants finishing dead last, and the Night Goblin Fanatics finishing first, Aspiring Champions second, Dwarf Warriors third, Sartosa Free Company, and on and on. And we looked, the old list, we had Nehekara Warriors at 22 out of 24. They did actually quite poorly. And Men-at-arms at 23. And what I wanted to do is to see where these guys slot in. So we get over here, and the Nehekara Warriors took a big jump, and now they're about where they belong. They went up 8 spots into 14 at 525 gold. Really well. I think the Nehekara Warriors are going to be right where they belong, and I think you're going to see them a little more often, and it's going to make a difference for how Tomb Kings do. Because Nehekara Warriors are listed as an anti-infantry damage-dealing unit. I think, let me just end that battle and just go pull them up. I think they're listed as anti-infantry damage dealers or something like that. And that's more like it. That's sort of where they should be. So we'll go Nehekara Warriors, Tomb Kings. Where are you, Tomb Kings? There we go. Nehekara Warriors 525. There we go. Anti-infantry damage dealer. Yep. So they're actually going to perform much more in line in an infantry fight like they should. And, you know, you really never should see... undead units should never be sort of in the top half because they get their natural heals. There's a lot of other things that undead units have an advantage in that they don't rout, they crumble, and, you know, there's some very good things having undead units, so you wouldn't really want them to be in the top half of this list, but about here in the middle is sort of the sweet spot for undead units, and Nehekara Warriors slot in right at number 14 out of 25, you know, just a little under half, so that's actually pretty good, and I would expect to see some differential with those Nehekara Warriors now performing better. So if you take 2 Nehekara Warriors to support your front line, or 3 to kind of be your second line of defense after your spearmen, they're going to perform a lot better for you. And then you got that Tomb Guard as your sort of your heaviest hitters at the end. Now the Red Crested Skinks slotted in at number 15. They're decent. They're not great, and this sort of is in line with the all other Skinks. Like the Saurus Warriors are a Saurus Warriors with shields are a top tier infantry. And an infantry fight. Red Crested Skinks are more like just the regular Skinks, the cohorts, in that the regular Skink cohorts actually show up near the bottom too, or, you know, not nearly as good, we'll say. I mean, I wonder if I can find that testing analysis just to compare. Yeah, analysis 400 under Where are the regular skinks? Skink cohorts, yep, they show up at number 21 out of 31. So they're sort of bottom half too. And they're useful, but they're not great. So if you look at where these guys are showing up, they are in line with the other skinks rather than Saurus or Croxagores in that they're okay. Now they do have the aquatic trait. You put these guys in water and they're going to be absolute beasts. You give them the kind of the big advantage of having these guys with their armor piercing is they will be very useful with melee attack buffs or melee defense debuffs on the enemy. And there are ways to use these red-crested skinks for sure. They're quick. They get around the battlefield. You know, what's their speed? Is 46. That's fantastic. They do apply poison. So, you know, they're going to be pretty nice to get them in there with a group of Croxagores, you know, if you're fighting anything, you know, like even that they're going to have plenty of uses, but they're not amazing. And that's just fine. I think Lizardmen players are going to like having this option. Some players may want to try to overuse it or think that they're going to be really fantastic against Chaos or the Dowie. We did do some testing of that, live testing, and the red-crested skinks were nothing to be afraid of. And we saw the regular Longbeard pull a ton of value in fighting the red-crested skinks straight up. And in our lineup, the way we do it, we will pull even more value in that. And they're very vulnerable to missile fire because they only have 30 armor. But a very nice addition to the Lizardmen lineup and slotted in right where they should be, I think. You know, I think really if there is any issues with the Lizardmen armor lineup, it's all with their Saurus Warriors. I've gone over that a few times. The major problems they have with the Saurus Warrior, where really the Saurus Warrior with shields is the only choice, and even the Saurus Spears really they're so much worse than Temple Guard. I don't think they're even worth bringing in. And, you know, Lizardmen mains might have a different take on that, but I think as one of you put it, Saurus Warriors with shields are still the gold standard for Lizardmen infantry. Red-crested skinks are a nice option and nice to have, and I think you're going to see them in every single dwarf matchup, at least up to 6 or 7. And you know, it's nothing to fear, nothing to be worried about. I mean, these red-crested skinks will definitely beat up on dwarf warriors, but they're not going to touch a Longbeard. No, the Bretonnian Men-at-arms, they went up 2 positions from having their price reduced. Really, I think they also got an extra +1 to their anti-large bonus. You know, you don't see a whole lot of Men-at-arms. I think maybe this might pull them up just a smidge, and you might see a few more. I mean, 500 is actually pretty expensive for Bretonnian infantry, but you might see those. And of course, some of these other units did move around a little bit because of the way that I rank order each of these skills in Longbeards and Skaven as the gold differential, gold per minute, and seconds per gold. And I guess I forgot to explain this. When I look at seconds per gold against the Longbeards, I want to see who's going to last the longest in a loss, because I think that's important. If you're going to lose, you want to last as long as you can against a unit that's going to beat you. And if you're going to win, you want it to be as short as possible. So I look at seconds per gold from the opposite end, saying if you're going to beat those, if you're going to beat the clan rats, you want to do it as quickly as possible. So, for example, the very fastest at beating clan rats is actually a gore herd from the Beastmen. They just demolish them really quickly, although they take a lot of damage in return. And the unit that lasts the longest against the Longbeards is actually Dwarf Warriors, so they have a very high return on their seconds per gold. So that's sort of how I evaluate them, and I do a 1 through a 25 of each, and then just add them up and or rank order them, and then we get a 1 through 25. It's not perfect. And as with any testing, I say this in all my testing videos, is that it is not the end-all and be-all. This is just one way of testing. This is just one data point. It is not comprehensive, and it is very myopic, very focused on one sort of thing. So take that as it will. Take that as one little extra piece of information for your own evaluation. purposes and when you're looking at building armies and doing things. I guess for my Dowie kin out there, really, I was kind of worried about red crested skinks. You know, like a cheap armor piercing infantry. You know, in my mind I was like, yeah, you're going to see lots of them. Nothing to be worried about. It doesn't change the matchup at all. And I did a couple battles, I think maybe 3 battles with different lineups, just against the AI to just see how they feel with lots of red crested skinks, and it just feels normal. And it doesn't really feel like anything. To be honest, it doesn't feel like anything's changed. Now, when I play against a player, I'm sure that will change a little bit, and we'll see how players sort of build out their lizardmen builds, like people who main lizardmen and like Falcon and Lore Master of Sotek and kind of other people who really think about that dwarf matchup, because it's a hard matchup for the lizardmen. So it's like the way the Dowie think about the chaos matchup or the dark elf matchup, because that's kind of our hardest matchup. So you got to sort of go all in on one idea. So it'll be interesting to see with these new tools how lizardmen mains sort of break it down and rebuild their armies. And I just, you know, I think this Tomb King change, I think they just got a heck of a lot better. You know, it may seem minor, you know, when you go and look at that, well, we've only gone from 575 gold to 525. But, you know, in terms of value, it really does start to matter in what you can do with that gold saved. I mean, you get 4 units, and that's 200 gold. You know, that's almost, you get 4 Nehekara Warriors, and now you have 200 gold, and that's enough for, you know, another ability, you know, for half a unit almost of something else. It really starts to add up fast when you only have 12,400 total. You know, you'd get 4 units, you got 200 gold to spare. You can use it for chevrons. You know, you can use it for a lot of other things. So it'll be interesting to see how the Tomb King infantry lines start standing up. I would guess they're going to be a little bit better, not massively so, but I think Nehekara Warriors as a 2-of pick is going to be pretty popular as a secondary line and cleaning up trash, and they're going to do it just a little bit better. You know, they're in terms of value for gold spent. So it'll be interesting to see that, and it'll be interesting to see if anyone uses Men-at-arms as polearms. You know, I mean, I don't know. It's you know, it depends on how effective they are, right, with Bretonnia. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the changes, and I know I have a few Tomb King mains that watched this testing, and we had a lot of discussion about Nehekara Warriors the last time we did this test, and I would love to see what they think, what you guys think about the changes in price to the Nehekara Warriors that feel right to you. I don't know if I have any Bretonnian mains. I know I have some people that play Bretonnia, but I don't know if we have any Bretonnian mains in the channel. But I'd definitely love to hear your thoughts on the polearms. I know that's a very small change, but it's not nothing. And of course, lizardmen and other Dowie out there, what you think of the red crested skinks? Have you played against them already? Have you noticed anything in terms of how lizardmen mains or people are playing lizardmen are setting up their army against the Dowie? Love to hear from you down below. I love comments. I always say it. A good chunk of my videos come from comments because there's so many interesting people that watch these technical videos. You know, it's just spreadsheets, you know. It's not terribly exciting. You know, we're not going to have the people who are watching this video right now at this point with a spreadsheet on the screen talking about data are well, I'm going to say we are not your average folk. So I love to hear from you. Even if it's just to say hello, it really is something I appreciate, and that's why I love doing this. So anyways, I hope you found this interesting, and I will see you soon.